she ever ponder giving in? Giving up? Most of us would. But that was not how Harriet Tubman's singular mind worked. Where others saw shut doors and unscalable brick walls, she dreamed into being tunnels and ladders. Submission to re-enslavement was not an option, and she did not face that storm alone. On the December night in 1860, when Harriet Tubman found herself trapped by winter weather, she was making one of her final trips through the woods of Maryland's coastal plain to rescue stolen souls. Their lives had been taken from them by a class of racial elites who feasted on the flesh of vulnerable people, turning the muscles of their victims' bodies, the children of their wombs, and the knowledge in their heads into long-term capital and short-term comfort. But these black captives did not appear at the designated meeting place that night. So Harriet waited. Petite with a slender build and still limber in her late 30s, she pressed her back against the bark of a thick tree. This might have been a loblolly pine, the species that coated the old-growth forests along the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay, a companion to the stranded woman who stood barely 5 feet tall. That evergreen would have cast a net of protective crystalline needles. Harriet's business in the woods was dangerous and secret. No detailed record was kept of her thwarted mission that night, but according to a supporter of the Underground Railroad who spoke to Tubman's first and only official biographer, Harriet Tubman told the snowstorm story to a warm-hearted, impulsive woman who was engaged heart and hand in the anti-slavery cause. The story comes to us twice removed from Tubman's own lips, across a distance that exists in all published accounts of her life. Tubman told this listener that, for some unexplained reason, the people she was there to aid did not come. As Tubman waited, night came on, and with it, a blinding snowstorm and a raging wind. She protected herself behind a tree and remained all night alone, exposed to the fury of that storm. Tubman took shelter against the tree's trunk, shivering through the evening as other warm-blooded creatures, like fox squirrels and snow geese, skittered, burrowed, or folded frigid ice-tipped wings. What was it like to tuck into the dark depth of the winter woods? What was Tubman thinking as she shrunk beneath the branch umbrella, listening for animal sounds behind the screech of the wind? Was she worrying about the fugitives who had not come yet, fearing the hunters trailing them and the trackers always searching for her? Was she turning over in her mind the cascade of events that had led her here to a test of her mettle in the silent company of this tree? Less than a decade before, Harriet Tubman had herself been enslaved, but she had refused to die in her spirit for the benefit of the flesh market. She had found a life purpose anchored in her religious faith, for she believed it was God's intention that all people should live in freedom, and she ardently felt enlisted in this higher cause. God's time is always near, she told a northern friend in a dictated letter. God set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free. Harriet Tubman had come to believe that the God of her faith had not only ordained her liberation, but also provided aid toward this end in the form of a lodestar and strong body. But Tubman, known in her childhood as Minty, had not come by this liberation theology easily or immediately. Her notion was radical in the mainstream society of her time that conceived of a God of social order and racial hierarchy. Her countercultural belief in a God of freedom stemmed from her lived experience, moral intuition, critical inquiry, cultural learning, religious feeling, and environmental surroundings. Through her openness to sources of knowledge that we might view as extraordinary today, and her conviction that, with God's guidance, she had the power to alter outcomes, Harriet Tubman became formidable. So when that warm-hearted woman who listened to the snowstorm tale reacted this way, "Why, Harriet, didn't you almost feel when you were lying alone as if there was no God?" She was fundamentally misunderstanding Harriet Tubman. For Harriet insisted she was not alone. God was with her, and it was in perilous places like this forest that she felt his presence most profoundly. "I just asked Jesus to take care of me," Harriet